Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn series about Make a Will Month. Today, our presenters, I'm Kayla Webb. I'm the External Relations Manager at Providence House, and we have Natalie Leek, who's our President and CEO. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Natalie now.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this really important information during Make a Will Month about how you can further support Providence House. Kayla will advance the next slide. So just a quick background for those of you who may be newer or not up to date on some of the happenings and background of Providence House. We are one of the nation's largest and longest operating crisis nurseries, providing emergency shelter to children newborn to 12 years old, whose families are facing crisis situations that may present risk of safety to their children. We currently have a 30-bed campus on the west side of Cleveland, and coming soon is an expansion to the east side of Cleveland with an additional 20 beds in the Buckeye neighborhood of Cleveland. We were founded in 1981. This is our 40th anniversary, and we'll talk a little bit more about how important that is in terms of plan giving for an organization celebrating its 40th and beyond. We've been licensed since 1990 as a children's crisis care facility by the state of Ohio and have served over 13,000 children and families since our doors opened. We are accredited, evaluated national model for child abuse prevention and family preservation, which makes our crisis nursery so unique. Our goal is not only to keep children safe, it's to keep their families together and help them through the crisis so that they can remain safe and stable as a family. When we think about how support comes into Providence House and how it's coming into other nonprofits, we're pretty much on pace. So if you look at the PH revenue 21-22, you can see the mix and the diversification of revenue coming into our organization. And in many cases, it very much aligns with what we see in the potential revenue in the national landscape. However, one of the areas where we really lag behind the trend is estates and bequests. And so this is a real opportunity during Make a Will Month to talk to you a little bit more about how easy it is to remember a nonprofit like Providence House in your estate plans and how important estate planning is not only for your nonprofit partners that you support, but also for your own family and future. So why are we talking to you about it now? As I mentioned, this is our 40th anniversary. And in plan giving, it's really important to understand that for the most part, it's those established organizations with 25 or more year history that have had donors that have stayed with them, longtime and committed donors throughout their history, giving year over year, sometimes month over month, and have really showed a commitment to the organization and have been with an organization that is now solid, sustainable, long-standing, and want to continue to provide support to that organization currently and well beyond their lifetime. We also are in a unique time in the United States in terms of wealth transfer. So many of our wealthier individuals and just individuals in general, we've gotten better about IRA accounts and life insurance and things to protect our families and their future. And as we see a lot of baby boomers now transitioning, there are billions of dollars transferring to the next generation. And many of these individuals are also acknowledging in this transfer, it's important to continue to support the organizations that they've offered philanthropy to throughout their lifetimes in their estate plan. So this is a new level of partnership. This is not something we typically see new donors engage in. These are for people that are committed to the organization, believe in the organization, and want to leave their legacy in the organization well after their lifetime. So not only supporting their families, but supporting their philanthropy for generations to come. We're going to walk through some facts and myths, but one of the things that I think is the most startling as you think about estate plans and how prepared family members are for their own passing and how they've cared for their families. 70% of adults do not have an up-to-date will. Many don't have a will at all, or they haven't reviewed their will in many, many, many years, and it isn't currently reflective of their life circumstance. So we're going to walk through a couple of, why you should write a will and a couple of myths and facts. So, why you should have a will is not only creating that legacy for yourself and your family, but it also helps provide some tax benefit for you and your family. Currently, residual and an estate that transfers to a family member is non-taxable, as an example. You also are able to protect and control the distribution of your assets on your terms. And we'll talk a little bit about the perception that, well, my family knows what I have, they know what I want to do with it. That does not play out in the way that the law addresses the transfer of estate assets following the passing of a family member who has assets. And you also, as I earlier mentioned, not only the legacy for yourself and your family, but for the places that you offer your support and philanthropy. And by including Providence House in a codicil of your will, you can ensure the safety of future generations of children and continue the legacy that you created with our organization or others that you support. So we'll get into some myths and facts. A lot of people think that wills are only important for people that are very wealthy, that have a lot of money or many, many assets. Wills are important regardless of your wealth and status. It protects all of your assets for your children, your pets, your legacy. So it's saving your loved ones a lot of stress, uncertainty, court involvement, because they will not be allowed to decide. It will enter a probate state and go through a very long legal process. And that creates a lot of conflict and tension within family groups, but also a lot of expense on your estate that you probably never intended. I'm too young to need a will. So if you're older than 18, it's recommended that you have one, especially if you own property, you have significant savings or retirement investment, you have pets or children that you need to ensure are being cared for and supported through your estate after your passing. And so, creating a will isn't something that you just do at a certain age or, at a certain time in your life. It's something that is an active document that as soon as you have assets should be developed.
So maybe you think, I already have a will, so I don't need to think about it anymore. But having a will is a great first step. It's only useful to you and your loved ones if you can keep that up to date. So many times circumstances, relationships, and even wealth can change over the course of your life. Estate attorneys really recommend updating your will every 3 to 5 years or as major life events happen. So you get married, you get divorced, you have children, you move to another location, whether that's a new house or a new state. It's really important that you are consistently updating your will so that your assets are really protected should something happen to you. And that includes updating and changing beneficiaries so that no matter what, everything is going to the correct person that you want it to go to. So writing a will is a long, complicated, and expensive process. I can personally attest that this was something that I thought 100%, right? I thought that's going to take forever. I don't have a lawyer. I don't know where to start. But really a big piece of what we're here to do today is to tell you that writing a will can take less than 20 minutes. So really, when you think about it, you don't necessarily have to travel around and do that. You can write it free. You can write it in 20 minutes, and it can be a legal document for you. And so really, as we're thinking about the traditional way of writing a will versus the way that we're going to show you today, traditional way, it looks long, right? It's complicated. There are so many steps, multiple meetings. Whereas what we're going to show you today, you can really do from the comfort and the safety of your own home. You don't even have to leave, and you can do it right on your couch at your convenience. So the service that we are talking about today, it's called FreeWill. So this is a partnership that we have embarked on. Since 2017, FreeWill has raised over $2.8 billion for nonprofits, and inspired almost 250,000 people to write their wills. If you don't have a will or your will needs up to date, you can completely do the process in about 20 minutes to really make sure, as we mentioned before, that it is updated. And if you happen to have a more complex will and you want to get started here, but you still need lawyer review, you are able to update the documents, print them off, and then take them to that meeting as well. So doing some of the pre-work on your back end. You can get started by visiting our website, and there's a link, or you can visit freewill.com/provhouseclee. So let's go ahead and get started. First up, we're just going to start by gathering some basic biographical information. This is a legally binding document, so we need to know information, not we, but FreeWill needs to know information like your gender, your birth date, your phone number, your address, just getting some of that really basic information so that you're all set up as we move forward. Next, we're going to start digging into your estate planning options. So understanding your marital status, and then including some information about your partner if you are married or in a domestic partnership, along with the value of your assets. So if you later on, which we'll get to, say, I want to leave 5% of my assets to this person, this is going to help understand what 5% might look like. You'll dig in here really to children and pets. So Natalie talked a little bit about how important it is to include those in your will and make sure that you have the up-to-date information. So starting off, do you have any children? How old are they? Are they adult children, or do you need to worry about, should something happen to you, really identifying guardians? And then moving forward so that you can include them in your estate plans as well. And then similarly, pets, do you have a pet that you want to go to a specific person? You can include that here. So that's really important, particularly if you are a huge pet lover. You want to make sure that your pup or your cat goes to your best friend, your neighbor, your husband. All of that will be included here. Once you get through that, we'll really dive into who is the executor or the executors of your will. And as it says, in order of preference, you'll list each of those people so that they are able to make the decisions, and they'll be listed on there for you. So again, really straightforward. You're inputting the information right into the page. And then this is the opportunity where you have to include Providence House if you choose. So we provide this service as a thank you for our donors free of charge, whether or not you decide to include us here. But if you choose to, you can select Providence House under the what do you care about question, and then the percentage of residual estate that you would want to leave to us. So you can go any percent from 1% up to 100%. And you can also decide where you want to direct your gift. So are you sending it to us to just figure out, put this where you need it more? Do you want it specifically to go to our children? Do you want it specifically to go to our families? Do you want it to go to our East Side expansion campaign where we're being able to serve more families and children, or even building up that endowment that we have as part of the campaign? You can do all of that here. You also have the opportunity to select multiple nonprofits or another nonprofit altogether. Next up, we'll talk about anonymity. So are you interested in Providence House or another nonprofit knowing who you are, or would you like your gift to stay anonymous? If you let us know who you are, then we can reach out to you right away. You'll become a member of our Legacy of Hope Society. But if you choose to stay anonymous, that's okay as well. We would be notified of your gift, but with no information, just a general amount of what we think that might be. But we would have absolutely no information if you chose to stay anonymous. And then you can also learn about more opportunities to figure out other ways to support Providence House and include that in your will as well. Next, we'll really dive into the primary beneficiary. So if you have included a charity, then that will be here along with the allocation. But if you haven't, you can include your spouse or partner, your children, other family members, whoever you would decide, and really create that custom plan so that everyone that you want to be part of this will be listed here. And then diving into specific gifts, right? So again, this is something you will come back to, you'll update, but if you want to leave a specific gift like real estate, like a vehicle, cash, to a particular individual or individuals, you can do that here and really list out all of the information so that those are taken care of in your will. And then you can include funeral wishes, right? So if you want to let your family know exactly what your wishes for your funeral and your resting place are, you can include that here. We often see donors forego flowers and ask for donations for their favorite charities. So you can do that here as well if that's what you are interested in to move forward. Next couple of things, they're going to ask for some more information. So an asset list, things that aren't probate assets. So life insurance policies, IRAs, you're going to be able to include those here. So they wouldn't necessarily go through probate, but this will just have a full listing of all of your assets here. So you can include, and then a no contest clause. And so really being able to ensure that should someone challenge your estate plan, that's included how you want to handle that here as well. And then finally, you'll really review and you're ready to download and sign your will. At that point, you'll have an up-to-date will and you can really move forward in the next steps on planning beneficiary designations, notifying any of your nominees included in your will, having a living will, or even selecting a financial power of attorney at that point. So many different things happening here to really be able to create your will. But we're not quite finished yet. There are a couple more ways that we want to highlight that you can use FreeWill. So one of the ways that you can use the FreeWill service is by doing a qualified charitable distribution or QCDs. So if you have an IRA charitable rollover and you are 70 and a half or older, you can direct that giving to Providence House on an annual basis. And so this is really helpful because all of the forms are there. You can do it very quickly and online. They are connected with multiple financial custodians and have those forms. So it really simplifies that process instead of having to take quite a few additional steps to move forward there. And then you can also make gifts of stock. So we often see donors, particularly around the end of the year, who want to donate stock as part of their annual contribution to Providence House. And again, this really makes that process quite a bit easier. And FreeWill is linked with multiple financial institutions so that you can fill out the form and the paperwork, everything online, and then it will come directly to us and we will be notified of that gift. So lots of options for the FreeWill service between bequests and estates, QCDs, and stock. And we really hope that you will take advantage of one of those services, if not multiple services, after joining us today.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you found the information helpful and that it helps you provide the legacy that you want to leave for your own family and hopefully Providence House or other nonprofits that you support. If you have any questions, our contact information is on the screen. You can also reach out to Providence House at any time, and we're happy to support you as you've supported us. Thank you again.